Today on the Ask Brady Show, we talk about photography workflow, the intensive, extensive way of doing it, according to the man with the cam, Alex Mills.
Well, hey there!
Welcome to the Ask Brady Show, episode number 46. We've got 4 great questions from the people of Pro Church Nation, and I'm joined, as always, to my left, your right, it's Roxanne.
It's true.
True it is, behind the camera, the editing wizard himself, Joe Nex. And the man with the cam, Alex Mills.
Thanks. It's not really as special as it sounds because I work here, but I'm here.
Okay, Roxanne, relay to me the first question.
All right. First question comes from Evan, and he sent in a video.
Hey, what's up, Brady? Long-time listener, first-time caller here. Had a question about photo archiving and storage, editing, things like that. Was wondering if y'all had a solid workflow there at Pro Church Tools with how you manage your photography, your raw files, your export files, how you archive things so that other guys on the team can get hold of them. We shoot a lot of events and worship services between 2 or 3 of us, and want to kind of get in a consistent routine so that other guys on the team can find the recent photos. We're staying organized, even though we all use different machines, we use different software, but we want to turn things around quickly to get social media traction, things like that. So I just wondering if y'all had any thoughts on organizing that whole process. Thanks.
Well, you asked for it, Evan, because I had to reach out to Alex, the man with the cam, for this answer because he is the one that's in charge of our in-house photography, shooting, as well as organizing and editing and exporting. So he gave me his workflow, and it is quite in-depth and intense. So I'm going to do my very best to relay that information to you. So the first thing, step 1, has to do with the raw files. So what's most important to know about our workflow, at least in this step, is that we have a shared server. We use a QNAP where all 12 of our workstations are plugged into, whether that's via Thunderbolt, like Jonas and I, Ethernet, like a bunch of the editors, or with our laptops, just Wi-Fi. And so we're all plugged into the same server. And so that means that we're all pulling from the same hard drive. So that's where we store all of our raw files. And Alex said that he stores them in a very specific categorization format. So first is the year. So let's say you just got like a folder called photography, and then there's 2018, 2017, 2016. Within the year of 2017, there is months, 01, 02, 03, 04, or if you prefer, the actual word, January, February, March. I prefer the number because then it will be in chronological order. Within the month folder, there would be a project name folder. So you could have baptisms, you could have fall festival, you could have Christmas. And then within that folder, there's another folder called raw. And then that would be where all of your raw photos go for the specific project in that month, in that year, on your shared workspace, server, hard drive, whatever you want to use. You could even do this with, an online storage system like Dropbox or Box or Google Drive. It wouldn't be as fast, and with RAW, it might be a little bit tedious, but, it's not video files. They're still photo files, so they're still pretty small. Okay, that's step 1. That's where we keep all of our raw files. Everyone has access to them, and they are very well organized and easy to find. You can track down what you're looking for. From there, Alex moves into Lightroom. And in Lightroom, he has another quite extensive workflow when it comes to looking at all of the raw files and then figuring out what's worth keeping, what's not worth keeping, and how do we organize that. So here's what Alex tells me. He has a standard workflow in Lightroom for the whole team to use. It uses folders, collections, and collection sets to keep his files organized. Nerd alert. Okay, so the first thing he does, and this is in Lightroom, remember? So the folder on your computer, that infrastructure is different than the folders and infrastructure in Lightroom. They're separate. So keep that in mind. We talked just about the first thing, which was how you store it on your actual hard drive. Now it's how you actually store it and workflow within Lightroom itself. So Alex sets up a folder for each year's work, similar to what you would do on your actual hard drive. Inside each folder, he creates a collection for every project. So it doesn't say here that he does month within each year, but he may do that as well in Lightroom. You could create pretty much a mirrored infrastructure. And then a collection for every project. So let's go back to Christmas. We're a couple weeks away from that in 2017. So Alex would have a Lightroom Christmas 2017 collection. Inside the collection, the Christmas 2017 collection, he has a collection set. 3 of them. They are titled All, Pics, and Selects. Pics, P-I-C-K-S. Not
right.
pics as in pictures. Pics as in I select you. I choose you. That's what the Pics is for. So he starts by putting all of his photos in the, shockingly, All folder.
Whoa, didn't see that coming.
He then will go through all of those images. He uses the word, I will cull those images. Again, nerd alert. He'll go through all of the images and he'll flag potential keepers as pics. So he's got everything in All and he's culling through each individual photo. And ones that stand out to him, he's going to flag as pics. Okay? That's like basically selection 1. You're like whittling down the entirety of your photo shoot, and now you're picking out anything that might be good. This isn't the final selection process. It's kind of like, you're not ready to, put it. I don't watch any reality TV. You're not ready to kick everyone off the island. Okay, you're not ready to give you're not ready to choose your bachelor. Is this a thing?
Well,
Isn't giving people a rose a bad thing?
No, you want to get a rose.
You want to get a rose.
If you get a rose, you're staying on the show.
Oh, okay, perfect. That's better. Okay, great. So you're not ready to give one person a rose, so you're going to give 3 a rose, and then make a decision from there on the single rose that you will give.
Yes.
This is just The Bachelor for Lightroom, basically. Okay, so once you've culled all of your images, and you've now got a folder with pics, you then cull the pics using either a 5-star rating for the absolute best and then all the way down to a 1-star rating. So you've got all of your photos. Now you've got like the pretty good ones out of all of them. And now you're going to go through the pics folder and give all of those photos a star rating from 1 to 5. And then the final folder is called the selects folder. The only pictures that get to go into that folder, Roxanne, star rating of 4 or 5.
All right.
That is step 2. That is how you determine what is worthy of a rose and what is not. And then the final step, edit those photos in the select set only, 4 and 5-star ratings only. You can edit them. You can add your preset. You can white balance, add some coloring, some styling, whatever it is. And then you're ready to export. When you export your photos, you are exporting them to the hard drive to the project folder that you created within the month, within the year. And remember, in that project folder was the raw folder. Well, now you're going to create a new folder, and there's a second folder called exports, and all the exported photos will go in there.
I feel almost like it's like one of those things you need a diagram for to be like, this is happening, and then it's going back to that.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I'm doing my very best to communicate it through voice and through video, and hopefully my injection of examples, hypotheticals, and reality TV analogies can help. But you might want to go back again and listen again, Evan, and take notes, especially when it comes to the Bachelor.
Especially his knowledge on the roses and the Bachelor and how that works.
Sometimes roses are good, apparently. I thought they were bad. I guess why would a rose be bad? All right, on to the next question, Roxanne.
Question 2 comes from Adam, and he sent in a video as well.
Hey, Brady. Hey, Roxanne. I think one of the most important parts of communicating is having a sense of how the listener will perceive what we communicate and give them what they want. For example, being able to cut out as many steps between here and there as possible. Like you don't send people to a link and then to another link to another link. You send people right to the spot. Another example might be leaving out background information that nobody really cares about. Even though it makes a case for what you're announcing, you leave it out so that they can get the main point. The main point becomes the main point. I think that's the most important part of communication, knowing how people will perceive it, but it also seems to be the hardest for other people to get and really change the way they communicate. I'm talking about like staff people. Do you have any tools or thoughts about how to help other people understand how people will perceive what they communicate? Or is this just like you're gifted with it? I don't know. Thanks.
Well, thanks for the question, Adam. I think there's a spectrum. And everyone falls on this spectrum. Let's say on the lowest end of the spectrum, you lack all self-awareness of how others perceive you and how you're coming across. And then on the other side of the spectrum, you've got, a sociopath who's only thinking about how he's being perceived by others, manipulating it for the good or worseness of the world and those around him or her. And, we've all been around people in social situations where they're talking or they're doing something and everyone else is like, yo, bruh, settle. But that individual is not able to recognize his or her own need to settle.
Yep.
Have you experienced a situation like this, Roxanne?
Oh, many.
Right. Now, I've never been that person.
Never.
Not in high school, for sure.
Especially not in high school.
That's actually a pretty good example, though, of how people, I think, are able to change. Because in high school, I was very prone to just blurting out whatever came through my head. And, this show is called the Ask Brady Show. It presupposes that I have things to say. That was very much the case in high school as well. Never a lack of words.
No.
Never a lack of opinion. Never a lack of ideation, spouting, overflowing, fire hosing out of my mouth. And in high school, I did not have the proper filter to manage all of the thoughts, all of the calculations constantly running through my head, and thus they kind of just came out. And there were many a time that Roxanne can attest to where, let's say it involved a female, where I would have said something that could be perceived as insensitive by them, could have been hurtful to them,
Right.
could have been plain old, just nasty to them.
Yeah.
Roxanne, can you confirm or deny?
Yeah, that definitely might have been a struggle that you had. You
Right.
are well known and talked about for being that way.
Wow. So this is something that I look back on and I can recognize. And I think that if the spectrum of lacking all self-awareness to, crazy self-awareness, let's say I started very low on the spectrum, I think I've come a considerable way over the last decade from high school. And I would consider myself a little bit higher on the self-awareness scale than the average person. And I do feel as though I'm constantly trying to consider how am I coming off and how am I being perceived by others. Now, there's a pro tip here for why I think I've been able to do that. I am constantly on camera, being recorded via audio, and I do a considerable amount of studying the game tape, to use a sports analogy, where I will watch the videos that I am presenting on, where I will listen to the podcasts that I'm hosting or being hosted on. And what this allows me to do is it allows me to step away and act as much as I can as a third party to the way that I communicate. I think one of the best ways that you can look at yourself and try to see the blind spots that you cannot see while you're communicating is to watch a recorded version or to listen to a recorded version. So it sounds like, Adam, there may be a person or two in your life, in your church's life, who may need a little bit of this in their own life. Studying the game tape, listening to themselves, watching themselves. Because it's difficult when someone points out to you and says, yeah, when you do this, this is what everybody thinks. Naturally, you are going to react negatively to that. You're going to put up your defenses and say, okay, no, I'm not like that. But when you watch yourself, listen to yourself, it's like when we all listen to ourselves on tape for the first time, like, wait, that's how I actually sound. That works for pretty much all of it. Like, we all have these mannerisms, these types of things that we just don't consider until we actually see it recorded, black and white. There it is on the screen. There it is on the tape. And then we're like, oh. And the second you become aware of it, that's when you can be able to begin changing it. But until you're aware of it, you're just not going to be able to change it. There's this great scene in How I Met Your Mother where they kind of have this thing where every single person points out this weird flaw in another person. And they have this thing where the glass shatters in the person's mind, where they were seeing someone their whole life in a certain way, and they were missing this, annoying little tick or this annoying little habit. And then someone pointed out to them, and then they couldn't not see it. It's like when you're buying a car and you're like, I don't think I ever see Jeep Renegades ever. And then I go and I think I might want to buy one. And then it's like every other car is a black 2016 Jeep Renegade souped up edition. That's all I see on the road. Once you are aware of something, you're able to identify it and thus change from it. But if you're not first aware of it, you're not going to be able to change it. So I would say that there is an innate amount of born with self-awareness. Forget that. I think it mostly comes through nurture. So if you have parents or, a social circle that's nurturing that, you can definitely improve upon it. And I think that I am the perfect example of that. Someone that was lacking self-awareness deeply. And now I think has fostered a deep sense of self-awareness from there.
Yeah.
Would you also agree to that?
Yeah, I would definitely agree.
Okay, great. See, Roxanne has witnessed the change. And I think one of the best ways to do it, watch yourself, listen to yourself, and then have others give you feedback. If you're not, or if this person that you're referring to, Adam, isn't willing to listen to constructive feedback, one of the best ways is to sit them down in front of themselves, let them see it for themselves. Because if they're not going to listen to you, maybe they'll listen to themselves.
Mm-hmm. All right, next question comes from Stephanie. And she says, referring to last week, so you talked about the cover photo, but not really about the profile picture. We have ours as a logo since that's what most churches seem to do. Do you think that is good, or should we have a photo of a person? If so, should it be the pastor or who? Thanks.
Yeah, I'll keep this answer short and sweet. Of course, now that I've said that, I won't, but I'll try. I would say that that's definitely the right thing to do. I cannot recall too many brands using individuals as their profile pics, and I think that it may not be a bad thing, but because nobody is doing it, or at least the vast majority are not, it can be confusing to the end user if you do it. Now, if everyone started doing it and it became common practice, and the user, the consumer, the end user that you're communicating to was more conditioned to seeing something like that, it could be something worth exploring. But because nobody does that, stick with the logo. I definitely think that that is the correct thing to do.
Yeah. All right. Last question comes from Joshua, and he says, any tips on how to tell someone that they aren't what you're looking for on camera? I'm currently editing together the second edition of our church's video announcements, and the person I thought was going to be very good on camera did not produce what I expected.
Thanks for the question, Joshua. Obviously, these conversations are not easy, and I think a lot of it comes down to having a game plan going into it, biting the bullet, and just doing it. The other day, I had to have a conversation that I was not excited to have with an employee, where basically I had to own up to how I was poorly treating them, or how I was overlooking them, or how I was misinterpreting what they were doing. And I was dreading it because it required confrontation. And I'm a confrontational person. I'm let's get things out there. But for some reason, in this instance, I just didn't want to tackle it. And once we had the conversation, it was great, and things have been great since. And that's why I had the conversation, because I believed that if I did, good things would come out of it. A difference could be made. Now, I had a game plan going into this conversation where I had formulated some thoughts beforehand to help frame where I was coming from, and then hopefully put myself in a position to listen and hear where this other person was coming from. So the first thing that I would say in this particular context is that you want to pre-frame for this individual who has turned out not to be perhaps the best choice as a presenter. You want to frame for them just how difficult it is to be a video announcements presenter. You could use this exact example. I have had multiple conversations with folks at Church on the Move, like Whitney George, and I've asked them, okay, you're a church of 10, 20,000. How many people do you trust to be on camera? And they say, yeah, we've got about 3. What percentage is 3 out of 20,000? Extremely remote. That's like 0.001. Let's do the quick math here. Open up our calculator. 3 divided by 20,000. Oh no, there's a lot more zeros. 0.0001, okay? 1.5 to be, exact. You could round up. 0.0002. Wow.
Whoa.
Twice as likely. But that just goes to show you, that's a church modeling excellence, leading the way when it comes to video announcements hosting on camera, and that's how difficult they perceive it to be. So when it comes to the measuring stick, I would do whatever you can to kind of separate your own judgments from it and just say, look, this is a really difficult thing. It's not something that anyone practices in their life.
Yeah.
Like, unless you were a sportscaster on TV, unless you were hosting the weather or doing the news, it's very unlikely that you've stood in front of a camera and read a teleprompter or memorized the script and tried to deliver it as natural. Who does that?
Not me.
I've presented now 80 billion thousand announcements, it feels like. I've lost count. Like, for a while we said 20,000, then we recounted and it was 30,000. By now it's probably 50,000, north of that, whatever it might be. A crap ton. And the only way that I've gotten better, similar to the self-awareness question, is by practice. You are aware of what you're doing, and then you figure out what you like, what you don't, and you adjust. I would look at myself on camera, and I'd say, I do this weird thing with my head where I tilt my chin to the sky. For some reason, I would have these,
Classic.
like, you can go back and watch the very first 40 videos that I published on this YouTube channel, and I'm sitting in a chair like this, and I'm like, well, hey there. If you're listening right now, I have my chin pointed to the sky. Well, hey there, my name's Brady. Great to have you. I'm going to teach you about aperture. I would watch back and I'd be like, why is your head pointed straight up, you fool?
It's weird because that's like a common thing too.
Exactly. For some reason, and I have seen this again and again with new presenters, people that are new and unfamiliar with the art of it and the science. For some reason, we just naturally want to like tilt our chin up because it looks or feels cool or feels more natural. It's tough. Once I figured that, okay, great. I need to hold my face steady and not look up, and I have to keep my camera a little bit higher than myself and point it down because that's more flattering for the face rather than shooting up, which, makes everyone look a little bit chubbier than they are. And then what I did was I realized that my hand motions were awkward. And so I was like, okay, I found like 3 that I really liked. And I started just using only those 3.
Yeah.
And then once I became comfortable with those 3, I used those as my core 3 movements. And then I expanded to like these kind of tertiary movements that I used less frequently, but when I needed extra emphasis or something just to really mix it up for the sake of, a talk shock, like a pattern interrupt. I don't know why I said it like that. and from there, I, even built upon those. One of the biggest things for me was having a resting place. When we've got 6 or 7 video announcements presenters that we've trained and used at provideoannouncements.com over the years. And one other newbie mistake that we see all the time is people feel like they always need to be doing something with their hands and they end up overcompensating. And not that hand movements are a bad thing. I often become very demonstrative on this show, but on video announcements, you're trying to like portray a calm, collected, cool cucumber individual. Cool as a cucumber.
Yeah.
A cool customer, really.
Yes.
It's like I'm in the 50s. And that's what you're trying to deliver when it comes to on camera for video announcements. But a lot of the time, let's say an announcement goes like this. I'm going to be like, so upcoming, we've got Christmas coming real soon. It's going to be great. And it's like every single like sentence or even half sentence, they're doing something different with their hands and it looks unnatural. So I found that having a resting place where I'll just keep my hands right around my belly button, that's my default position. And unless I really want to make a point when it comes to a time, a date, or a particular element of an announcement, I am staying stagnant, stoic in my resting position. And so that was another thing that I learned. That took about a year. And then I realized that the inflections in my voice weren't so great and that I needed to emphasize certain words more than others. And I needed to like make my voice go up sometimes and then bring it back down when I was trying to emphasize something differently. And that took another year. And again and again and again. Learning how to present with a teleprompter. That took a good 2 years. And now I keep like increasing the speed, and you got to find a good speed, and you don't want to speak too slowly or too quickly. The number of variables that go into being a good on-camera presenter should not be understated. It is a very, very difficult thing. So for this conversation, going back to what I originally said, have a plan going in on how you want to frame the conversation. You know it's going to be difficult. You got to make your peace with that. Just do it. From there, figure out what's the best way to set this up to get my point across, accomplish what I'm hoping to accomplish, but minimize their hurt feelings or, cynicism to volunteering, or even like, being angry at you. So separate yourself from the measuring stick. This isn't you looking at someone and being like, you know what? Pretty much everyone else we've tried is a great presenter and you just don't cut it. No one can do this. I cannot do this, and And you know what? It's just not what we're looking for right now. And then do your best to listen to their thoughts. Listen to their feedback. Is there a way that they could be practicing on their own for the next 6 months and then give it another try? Give them some follow-up steps from there. If they really care about video announcements, offer them another role within that overall project. Would you like to edit? Would you like to script? Make sure that you don't just like cut them out and then say, see ya. Just rather than like removing them from the position, shift their position from one of host and presenter to one of scripter, filmer, editor, or a different department altogether. But that way they still feel valued, and it's more about just rejiggering rather than removing, which can hopefully help keep their feelings intact.
Yep.
Well, that does it for this 46th episode of the Ask Brady Show. If you want your question answered, you can always send in an email with your video question to hello@prochurchtools.com. And when you do that, you'll be sent immediately to the top of the queue. If you want your question answered, but not fast, you could send in a text question to that same email or on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, or Instagram with the hashtag AskBrady. Yep. We love you, Pro Church Nation. We've got big things coming in 2018, including daily content, daily videos, daily podcasts, all coming in 2018, starting Monday, January 1st. Can I say, thank you, 2018, for starting on a Monday. Monday is my favorite day of the week.
Perfect.
New beginnings, new possibilities, new adventures. And 2018 was like, we're going to double down on that. Not just a Monday of the week, a Monday that begins a year. Woo! 2018, best year ever. We love you, Pro Church Nation. Go seize the 167. We'll talk real soon.